You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Happy Tuesday, everyone, and happy Monday for all of you who are listening to this live on YouTube. Reminder that we do this live for our shows on YouTube exclusively if you want to get them the day of the recording. So check that out. Now, I thought it would be fun to open up the mailbag, and fun being the word of choice here. I knew it would get pretty nasty, and you guys were very raw, and you definitely were as you shot over questions to me. Some of them are questions to ask, some were more comments that you made, and hey, I will respect the comments that you made because I think some of them are funny to add to. So we're going to go through the questions, we'll go through some of the comments that you made as we open up the mailbag. If you're listening on YouTube right now, hit the comment section up. If you want to ask a question, make a comment. I love the comment feature on here. You can put them up on the screen. So if you're listening, let's make it interactive. So go ahead and add your thoughts to today's show. So the first question comes from Baldwin, the anonymous sicko, who says, what do you need to see the rest of the year to give you confidence that this is just a one-off bad season and not a program that lost momentum? Separately, fans all have thoughts on what Jeff should do as a coach, but in your opinion, have you seen any suggestions worthwhile listening to? A great questions, two-part question here by Baldwin, and I want to get into both. Where do you go from here, right? Well, there's still 8 games left. There's still a lot of football to be played, and yeah, BC probably won't be going to any bowl games, but there's still ways that you can build momentum to the end of the season. First and foremost, the offensive line. Yes, they are young, and I would love to see them progress because now, the big thing with an offensive line is they need the time to gel together, to learn the communication, to see, what their strengths and weaknesses, how do they handle certain situations, whether it's stunts, blitzes, whatever's coming up, be able to do that consistently. So I'd love to see a guy like, and I'm going to go with the specific ones, Drew Kendall, Ozzie Trapillo. Love to see the two of them become more consistent. They're Kendall and Trapillo are heading in that right direction, but are they like, guys we're going to talk about as all ACC next year? No. But there's 8 games to go, and both of those guys have only started 4 games. So they have an opportunity now to really build on that on the offensive side, offensive line. Because now you consider that, right? Those 2 guys play well. You're getting Christian Mahogany back. You know exactly what you're getting there. That, what do you do with those other 2 spots? That's a question for another day, but you at least have 3/5 of your line basically locked down for next year. Love to have that kind of lined up. On the other side of the ball, I would love to see the linebackers continue to improve. That's, like if we're looking for like the golden, the golden parachute or whatever we're going to talk about here in terms of like, if the season's still going off the rails, what signs of improvement do you want to see? I want to see Cam Arnold do better. He's been up and down. The game against Florida State was a big down game for him. He got exposed bad. Bryce Steele, on the other hand, had a great game, not great, but good game against Florida State. He was the highest ranked Eagle on both the offensive and defensive side, according to Pro Football Focus. So love to see some more consistent play out of them and see what you have in Jalen Blackwell as well. I think that's kind of another thing. Hafley has two and a half years of his guys there. And I'd love to see him get the opportunity to continue to add to the playing experience for those guys, guys like Blackwell on the defensive line. I'd love to see what Quan Williams gets to do more often, or Owen Stodmeyer. And then the secondary, I know he was sick. I think I said he was sick. Amari Jackson. What can he do? And the ball, the same thing, right? You get those kids out there, get them valuable game experience when you can. And that all depends on where the season's going, because I know things were really, really bad against Florida State. And yeah, I'm not going to be naive to say that things are going to get any better against Clemson or Wake Forest or NC State or Notre Dame or Syracuse. It's going to be ugly. I think. But getting the play calling in the right direction, figuring out what your offensive scheme is going to be, because I haven't seen consistent play out of them to really say what we're watching there. But, like, get Jurkovec comfortable out there. Figure out something that they can do successfully. They've got plenty of time to figure that out. Plenty of time to, continue to grow. I think that's what I would love to see. And those are my suggestions too, right? My suggestion that I think, and I've said it all along, Baldwin, the anonymous sicko, is I want to see Hafley adjust. I don't want to see, and I think, I saw BCI had that article about, we want Adazio back or whatever the hell that was. No, I one of the big issues with Adazio was he was so pigheaded about what he wanted to do. He never adjusted to anything. And he just kept doing the same thing over and over again, accepting, the definition of insanity, expecting different results, but doing the same thing over and over again. Hafley is a young coach. And what I want to see him do is adjust. And that's on the field and off the field. I want to see him be able to, adjust in the transfer portal, right? Maybe he's watching what's going on that field and saying, I have to figure out a different way of doing this because what I did didn't work. And you know what? I respect that if that's what he has to do. Or in terms of game scheming, what changes does he have to make on the offensive and defensive side of the ball? I want to see him adjust. I want to see him figure it out. At press conferences and over again, whenever he says one of his default answers to a lot of things is, this is my fault and I got to change. And I always ask him, what do you mean by that? Because it's a pretty vague answer. It's an interesting one, and he'll tell you if you ask him, like, specifically, like, what did you do wrong? But I think that's something I'd like to see. So Baldwin, there's a lot of questions, but that was a great question. I could do a whole episode on Baldwin's question there, but thank you so much. Oliver Lee, who I've not had a chance to see here on our podcast for a question before, says, who do you honestly think will be the starting quarterback for BC next year? And this is a question that I've been thinking about recently, and I kind of alluded to it during my episode with Mitch yesterday. I said that Jurkovec has no chance, I think, right now of being an NFL quarterback. He's shown nothing this year. I have, I forgot to put it up. I have a little banner here that says, David Hale said that Jurkovec is he has the lowest quarterback ranking in the ACC right now. Now that's, and so, a guy with injury history who isn't playing well, he's not going to get drafted. So I was looking at his stats and I was like, oh, you know what? We haven't really talked about this. He has an extra year of eligibility left. Could he come back next year? I don't think he will. I get the sense, and this is just me, that if Jurkovec if he has an extra year of eligibility, it wouldn't strike me as odd if he enters the portal again. Does he go and does he reunite with Frank Signetti at Pitt? Because I don't know if Keaton Slovis is done after this year. Wouldn't surprise me. He gets to play at home or some other team. I mean, maybe he just needs a fresh start. He after getting beat so badly this year, does he go for another team? That's only something that Jurkovec could say. But that being said, if I was a betting man, if BetOnline had a poll, like, will Phil Jurkovec be the quarterback in 2023? I'd say absolutely not. I'd take that bet in a second. So that brings up two things, and it kind of goes back to Baldwin's question. Does Hafley go with Emmett Moorhead? I know a lot of fans are really high on Moorhead. I'm not sold on him yet. I mean, yeah, he made some really nice plays against a light box, but what's he going to look like when he has guys in his face? Because last year did not show me that he was ready yet, and I need to see more before I say that. But that goes back to my thoughts about Hafley, right? If Moorhead isn't ready, if he needs another year, remember, this is a kid that hasn't played a whole lot of football. He's been playing more recently, but he didn't play a lot in high school. Maybe he needs one more year. I would hope that Hafley either thinks he has someone else on the roster, which I don't know who that would be, or he goes to the transfer portal and deals with it. So that would be an adjustment right there. Like, if Moorhead's not ready, if Moorhead's not your guy, do you have the guts to go out there and maybe upset him to go get another guy for a stopgap for a year? how many programs are doing that right now? BC should be able to do that if they need to. If it takes one more year to get to kind of bridge to Moorhead, I think that's what you do right there. So that's my answer. I think it's going to, if I was a betting man, I would say Emmett Moorhead next year. But you know what? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they maybe thought about a transfer if Jurkovec is not there either. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go continuing on our quest to answer questions that you all have for me. But before we do that, from cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. To get started, download the free Upside app. Use my promo code LOCKED, and you can get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's free money there, folks. Can't beat that. So next, claim an offer for whenever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and you get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Tells you what they have right there. So download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCK to get $5 or more cash on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. AJ Black here, Locked on BC. And we are talking about the mailbag questions you all had. And I thought you guys had some really great questions that you wanted answered. And, a lot of it was built on frustration, and I totally get that, right? Like this is a very, very frustrating time for BC fans, as, you had that feeling a couple of years ago that Jeff Hafley was going to be the answer to your coaching worries. And now you're seeing like, okay, maybe there's some bigger issues here that BC has yet to address. Now on Facebook, and I can't find this person's name because I did not write it down. They wanted to ask what coaching changes. I think this was DJ. I'm going to just use his first name. DJ asked, what coaching changes do I see Hafley making this offseason? Now, I don't know if Hafley will do anything. And I know that's going to frustrate some folks because, he just changed up the entire offensive coaching staff. Like he just hired McNulty, Savon Higgins, Googs, Daryl Wyatt. And I know he's very high on these guys. So to say that he's just going to pull the plug on them would be a big surprise to me. The defensive side of the ball, kind of the same thing. I mean, does AAR leave? Does he decide that maybe this is the year that he goes to greener pastures? Could be. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, right? Like when a team is struggling like this and maybe another bigger school sees how he recruits in Maryland, they go after him. But I mean, look at what he's bringing in from Maryland. And this is not a dig. Like he's done really well with getting a lot of like good solid threes. Is a Blue Star program going to look at Azar Abdul-Rahim and go, oh yeah, we definitely got to get him? Like, what has he done? Like, he hasn't done anything like super, out of control here for BC. It's like kind of like fits right in. So I don't think he's as attractive as people think he is. He may be, but I don't think he is. So my answer is the picture of the guy on the board right now, Dave Guglielmo. And then this is a 2-part answer, right? Because the offensive line, as we all see, is a complete mess. It's still a mess. And there's no answer to, who do you put out there to fix this? There's no, so as DJ did ask this. Yeah. What do you do to, bring in different guys? It doesn't seem like there's an answer there. And, if there's going to be a sacrificial lamb to fall on the sword for this season, I got to go with Googs. I have to, right? Like, he's a guy with a lot of experience that we were hoping would fix the things that were going on with this program. And he hasn't done that. Like, it's so bad that it seems like it's gone in reverse. And like, as much as sometimes we were frustrated with the offensive line last year, you'd kill for what you had last year, right? You'd kill to have Zion Johnson, even like Tyler Vrabel messing up a little bit here and there. You'd want that back. So to me, I think Googs is going to be the answer. And I think it's a two-part thing, right? So first of all, it's the struggles of the offensive line. Second of all, Googs, I don't think has been at one place for more than a year his entire career. And maybe, and that's maybe, waxing a little bit with the hyperbole here, but he's a guy that doesn't stay around very often. And I think he's a guy that, maybe he just decides to move on and to the next thing that's attractive for him. And I know a lot of folks out there have brought it up, but his replacement's probably on the staff right now, and that's Chris Snee, former offensive lineman for BC. Like, you have to imagine he's eventually going to take over that role. So I think we're going to see that kind of come up, this offseason. It wouldn't surprise me if nothing happens, but I don't know. So that's my answer to that. So Bruins BC Skiing and Family asked me, why do I continue to purchase season tickets year after year, even though I have said never again after 90% of the seasons? I mean, should I try getting kicked in the balls to see if I like it? It's a thing. Seems similar. Should I give it a go? Guys, being a Boston College fan is a labor of love, and it's something that's not easy to do. And yeah, it does feel like that. And when you see your friends and family that don't understand and they're like, why are you following this team? And they're terrible. You get you look at yourself long and hard in the mirror and say, why do I continue doing this? I get that. I have many friends that, still do this and still pay to tailgate, and they buy their season tickets. It's a commitment, man. And I get it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's been a tough season for you. I feel like BC fans are due something, and maybe Earl Grant will give it to you. Maybe that'll be the positive thing this season, right? The Sickos will have their basketball program back, and they'll be competitive. So thank you, Bruins BC Skiing and Family. Dirk Cal asks, should Bowery and Hess start someone else on offensive line? I don't know what ROS is. Why play Nick Thomas and Conley when they both look hopeless? Yeah. I've been wondering the same thing. And we saw Bowery come in against Florida State in garbage time. He looked fine, but again, that was against light boxes. They weren't really pushing him all that much. But this is the biggest conundrum I have about BC's offensive line, right? Hafley does his job as a coach to really prop up Nick Thomas. And to Nick Thomas's defense, his PFF score has gone up every week. So, it's still bad, but it's going in the right direction, I guess. But I think everyone asks the same question, and I ponder the same thing myself. Like, this poor kid is out there getting knocked on his butt throughout the entire game for the first 4 games. And they're still throwing him out there over some other kids that were highly touted recruits who aren't walk-ons, who I believe Nick Thomas was on the other side of the ball when he walked on. How are those guys? How are Otto Hess and Jude Bowery not ready enough compared to Thomas? I don't get it. And you know what? I don't think we're going to get an answer there. Because as I've said all along, I think Trapillo had 26 snaps in last week's game, and they're going to continue to ratchet that up. But, you have that happen. That should probably eliminate Thomas from playing. Thomas will be on the bench. And then the Jack Conley question. I don't know what he's done that's really impress the coaching staff. Maybe it's just they don't have any tackles ready, which is again a whole thing on the coaching staff that they weren't ready for that. But if Mahogany gets ready, whatever you have to do to get your top 5 guys out there, I have to imagine Conley is going to see the bench at some point, because he is a guy, he's been around forever, and you don't want to rip on a kid. He's just struggled so much. He has just struggled so much, and it's been it's really disappointing to see that he hasn't progressed seemingly at all from what we saw last year, where he looked like he was on skates. And I saw, Guglielmo during the Florida State game getting really into the left side of that offensive line. So, I have to imagine. I don't, will they make a move on those guys, like to put somebody else in? I don't know. I think Hafley's loyalty to some of his players sometimes is blinding, and I worry that's a big issue coming forward, but that's where we're at. All right. In a moment, we're going to wrap up our mailbag. I have more questions that you guys brought up and more comments that you'll enjoy, and we'll bring that all back in just a moment. This is Locked On BC, AJ Black. We are your first listen every morning. And if you are one of our first listens, I want to thank each and every one of you. And if you haven't done so already, I want you to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is Locked On Boston College. If you're not on YouTube yet, just sign up. It takes 10 seconds. You get great conversations with other BC fans. We're going to do special episodes after each game that I can get to. And we'll, once we hit recruiting season, I will be doing special episodes, when kids are announcing. So this will be something fun that you can be part of here on Locked On BC. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right. Next question for us. Someone wanted to ask, and, it's one of the sickos. I forget which one it is. I think it's, the basketball, basketball hot takes. Want to know if Phil Jurkovec is the most overrated BC player of all time. I would say that this season has been Phil Jurkovec being one of the most overrated players of all time, because I mean, gosh, and I will eat crow for this. I was definitely hyped up that he would be, and I think most people were, media and fans, that he was going to be a contender for one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. And he, as I said earlier, is last. He's dead last, and he looks overwhelmed at times. And Mitch, I think, brings up a great point of the way he looks at it. Like, Jurkovec goes out there to try to be the hero every week, and he's shooting himself in the foot because he's trying to do so much. And he's making bad throws. He's, forcing things where he shouldn't be forcing things. So, I would say this has got to be, I don't want to call him overrated, but I'll say this is one of the most disappointing personal seasons I've seen out of a BC player in a long time. And I think that is absolutely fair to say that, because the results are showing it for itself, right? Like, you're just seeing it. All right, we're going to continue down that trail because I got a question asking me from Hoya Eagle, who's a great fan of our show. Shout out to Hoya. He said, I already bought tickets to the Clemson game. How can I enjoy this game outside of booze? Well, I go with what my dad always tells me, right? I sat through some really bad BC games against some really good teams, and he always said, I just enjoy watching good players playing against them. Well, you get to see a defense against BC. And, with Brian Breesy and Miles Murphy and all those guys on that defense, they're gonna do some things. And yeah, it's your school getting the receiving end, but you're gonna see a special defense. I guess that's one way of looking at it. It's one way to get through it. I apologize. I've had a cold all week, and I've been hitting the mute button so you don't have to listen to me cough. But the other piece with this game is like, it's the red bandana game. That's special in itself. And like, even if Clemson goes out there and wins 55-7 or some obscene, they get to wear the red bandana jerseys. They'll do all the special red bandana stuff. I guess that's a positive that you could have too, is like, it's got that special BC moment. And I've been there when there were bad red bandana games. I think the last one I went to was Clemson. I think I remember I had to fly out to Chicago the next day, and that was the one where Deshaun Watson absolutely tortured BC for, I forget, it was like 50 points too. So it's been there. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. So I have a question here. This year is over. I know Hafley thinks he owes Jay and Jerk and Zay and hopes to keep their draft stock. That being said, other than that reason, why are we not getting the underclassmen into play before mid fourth quarter? Hafley kind of talked about that, and I kind of agree with him. And Mitch brought it up on yesterday's episode. Like, you want to put the younger guys in positions where they can succeed. It doesn't help the young guys grow if they go out there and get crushed. So when Florida State was playing, full tilt, and you don't want to throw your young defenders out there to be part of that massacre, basically, right? So you have to balance it a little bit. I do agree with you. I think they need to get them out there more often. And I still think, like, if Jurkovec is if he continues to really put too much on himself and struggle, he's got to be a guy that you got to think about Moorhead more often. And I'm not ready to bench Jurkovec yet because I think he is better than Moorhead. But if he's gonna really get, if he's gonna continue to spiral, you got to hit the eject button faster in some of these games. All right, Tex, not because of Texas, asks, regardless of Hafley's status heading into the next season, is it wrong to think the 2023 recruiting class will be jumping ship? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't see that happening. If you had, and I've said this on the podcast before, but if you've had some guys that were down to a couple schools, so a few, and I'll get to them in a second, that I think maybe you might watch for, but I don't see like a vast majority of this class jumping ship. I think you could see someone like, the St. Francis Academy kids. Those are kids like Darrell Robinson was, 51% leaning towards BC, 49% towards Virginia Tech. Now he's a guy that he took a month and a half to actually acknowledge that he committed. He could be someone to watch. Brian Sims, he's been committed for a while. He just got an offer from Cincinnati. Could he be someone to watch? So there's a few there, but I think the BC fans are expecting like this like whirlwind of like 13 decommitments out of 20. That's not going to happen. I don't see that happening right now. And that's because, half the reason these kids are committing to BC is they're buying into Jeff Hafley's vision. Whether you agree with it or not, it's what the kids think. And I see the message still resonating. Like, he's selling to these kids, like, we're building something that's going to take a year or two to build. You can come be part of that as we figure out how to get there. I think they like that, and they're an ACC program. He's a NFL coach. Again, that's something these kids, that doesn't matter if they win or lose. They like Hafley and his staff have NFL experience. They all bring it up. So I don't expect it. I think you may see a few, but like, it'll be kind of like a normal year, maybe with a one or two extra. But I haven't heard any buzz of it yet, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, this is AJ Black. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll start getting ready for the Louisville game. I'll start giving you my opening thoughts. Hopefully, we'll be on with Locked On Louisville later this week. I'm sure I'll probably talk to Matt McGavick at some point as well. I'll let you know about that. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back again soon. Have a great one, and make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Take care, everyone.